Thank you for joining me again. This is going to be Illinois PaCE updates. We did have quite a few of you registered for this session, and I know that hopefully you all have a lot of good questions. Just some housekeeping items. This session is being recorded, like I mentioned. After the session is done and the recording becomes available, we are going to have it on our isec.org/pd/on-demand webinars. If you are having trouble connecting audio through your computer, please use the call me option for audio. If anybody's texting you that any of your colleagues are joining us today and they just cannot hear me, just have them use the call me option instead. We are going to be using the Q&A feature, especially for this session on the bottom right corner of your screen. Hopefully I address all questions even before you get to ask the question, but that feature is always there as part of all of our webinars. And then if you want to know about any of the workshops that we have coming up or offerings that we have coming up, that is all available on our isec.org/pd page or isec.org/PaCE. For those of you who are joining us to receive continuing education credits or professional development hours, we are going to have the link to that at the end of this webinar. With a little bit about ISEC, we are the state agency who is known the most as the financial aid agency that administers financial aid programs for students. But our mission statement is providing Illinois students with information and assistance to help make education beyond high school accessible and affordable. Like I mentioned, we do administer a lot of the financial aid programs for students who are going into college across the entire state. And we also, the side that you are here for, we also provide professional development offerings in regards to navigating the financial aid process. Resources and supports for underrepresented students, undocumented students, special population students, and then also understanding the student loan repayment forgiveness programs and overall the student loan process and anything regarding financial aid for students. For the agenda for today, we're going to be having the PaCE overview. This is going to be brief. I know a lot of you often attend a lot of our informational sessions on PaCE or in regards to PaCE, so you might have seen some of this information, but a lot of individuals who have joined us as of recent also have not heard of PaCE. It just became over on the radar. So I'm going to be doing a PaCE overview, trying to be as brief as possible, but very effective. Then we'll go over what to expect, what is some goal settings that you should be looking into as from now until the end of the school year, implementing and partnerships. With the PaCE overview, the background of PaCE, July 2016, the Postsecondary Workforce Readiness Act was signed into law, and that partnered the 4 educational agencies to develop and establish a system to ensure high school students are college and career ready. Those 4 agencies were the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, the Illinois State Board of Education, the Illinois Board of Higher Education, and the Illinois Community College Board. July 2017, that was the deadline for education agencies to adopt and recommend a framework that outlines the Illinois PaCE framework, which is the Illinois PaCE framework. That was what it was adopted. When the PWR Act was signed into law, the requirement was that the 4 state agencies adopted the framework, that it guided the resources that they provided, that the 4 state agencies supported that framework, and that they pretty much function under the same or worked under the same definitions, right? If we're talking about college, what is college as defined by all 4 state agencies, so that when we're talking to students, we are all giving the same message. So that was the requirement at the beginning of the PWR Act being signed. May 2022, Public Act 1020917 was signed into law, and it did a couple of things with PaCE and college and career pathway endorsements. So two elements of the Postsecondary Workforce Readiness Act, the PWR Act. It expanded as to what was the requirement from school districts. So it was beyond what was the requirement for the state agencies. Now it became a requirement for school districts and districts serving 6 through 12. It also did make it so that on our with the state agencies that we expanded the framework to lower grade levels. So originally the framework was from 8th through 12th grade. Even if, whether it was a unit school district, whether it was a feeder school district, the framework was 8 through 12. As of July 2023, the state agencies, we did expand the framework to the lower grade level. So it is now 6 through 12. And that is the new framework that we were able to update and adopt. There is a timeline also that schools had to follow, which is in regards to the adoption and implementation of the framework and college and career pathway endorsements. For July 1st, 2024, that was for CPS to pretty much adopt the Illinois PaCE framework as is. And then July 2025 for all other public schools or other public school districts to implement and post their PaCE framework in a prominent area or in their website. With this, I will focus more on that July 1st, 2025 deadline. This is what we're getting a ton of requests for and a ton of questions about. Like I mentioned, prior to Public Act 1020917, the requirement was for the state agencies to adopt it. We did work with a lot of schools and school districts for them to be able to adopt and start implementation of the framework prior to this, prior to the Public Act being signed. But we are getting a lot of requests because of the no later than July 1st, 2025. So a lot of schools are in that place where they have not adopted a framework. They're looking to adopt the frameworks to meet this deadline. I do have on here, continuing with college and career pathway endorsements, CCPEs, just because a lot of the work that goes into PaCE nicely aligns with college and career pathway endorsements, and not that we are in charge of college and career pathway endorsements. That is primarily ISB, and I do believe Ed Systems from NIU, they do a lot of work with college and career pathway endorsements, but because it does align with the work taking place in PaCE, we just want to make you aware of that timeline as well. With the no later than July 1st, 2025, it is that you all post your framework in a prominent place on your website. The questions that we have been getting with this is, what is the application process for the framework to be, for the framework to be, what's it called? It slipped my mind, but what is the application process that for us to be able to adopt a framework? What are the requirements? What's a deadline with ISAC? What's the reporting requirement in regards to this? And I just really want to clarify that this is just that you post it on a prominent place in your website. You do not have to get approval from us. You do not have to go through an application process and wait to get approval. We have worked with a lot of schools and districts who have been wanting just that additional assistance. Can you look over it, see how it looks in comparison to other frameworks that you have seen or worked with, or especially because we were one of the agencies that had their hand in being able to even create the framework and then later on the expansion of the framework if the elements align. But other than that, you do not need approval. You did not need to go through an application process. That's going to be one of the things. The second part is, as of right now, we are also there is no requirement as far as reporting. You do not need to report your results or your progress. Again, we have been working with a ton of school districts and schools who have touch base with us or just have stayed connected with us in regards to how they're doing with the tracking of it, but that is more so not to meet a requirement, that is so that they can effectively implement their framework and then continue to make progress. I mentioned as part of the background that the requirement starting 2017 was for the 4 educational state agencies to adopt it. And as of lately, it is a requirement that school districts adopt it. But even before the Public Act was signed, there was already a lot of value into the framework. A lot of schools saw the value, they saw the benefits of adopting a framework. So even prior to the Public Act being signed, we were already working with a lot of schools and school districts who were adopting or implementing their PaCE framework. The heat map that we have on the screen, this is as of spring 2024. We are working on updating this, but this were back in spring 2024, the schools and school districts that had self-identified as either customizing a PaCE framework and adopting that framework or adopting the Illinois PaCE framework as it is. They took what is the framework that the state agencies are adopting, and they said, yes, we can implement that at our schools. And then a couple of the data points on here will point towards districts or schools within the same zip code who are adopting multiple PaCE frameworks. So you can have one school adopting the Illinois PaCE framework as is, and then you can have another school who adopted the PaCE framework, a customized PaCE framework. So the value was already there. The benefits were already there, but as of right now, what we're working towards is really making it clear what the requirement is and then assisting schools with this process. As we move forward, when I am referring to the Illinois PaCE framework, that is the official Illinois PaCE framework umbrella term. It is covering 6 through 12. We broke it up into 2 pieces, just in case you have not been familiar with it. One piece is going to be the middle school framework, 6th through 8th, and then the second piece is going to be the high school framework. That is going to be 9 through 12. But when I'm referring to the Illinois PaCE framework, that is completely 6 through 12. It just happens to be that we thought it would be easier if we broke it up into 2, just because not every school district is going to be a unit school district. With this, we do have the Illinois PaCE framework, the middle school portion of it. This is going to focus more on the middle, obviously on the middle school side, but this is focused on adolescent development benchmarks. Every benchmark is going to be an activity. It'll be a bullet point within the framework. So what you see on the biggest portion of the framework. With the benchmarks and being focused on adolescent development, this is intended so that students are able to build upon skills that will help them foundationally be able to better understand some of the benchmarks at the high school level. So instead of it being that they're just completing admission applications, or instead of it being that they're just completing a financial aid application, like what does that mean for their future, right? If you are asking students to do research about post-secondary institutions that they might be interested in, understanding your skills, your interests, why that's important, understanding yourself and what are things that are important to you are going to really make the difference whether a student goes to a post-secondary institution that they will really like and enjoy their experience, or whether a student goes into a post-secondary institution and still trying to navigate who they are, which inevitably it will happen, but this will help. This is hopefully going to help with that transition a little better. With the elements of the middle school framework, again, you'll see that underneath at the bottom that it has the 4 stamps from the 4 agencies who have adopted and approved the framework. It is from 6th through 12th through 8th grade. The domains or categories in the Venn diagram that is going to be covered through the entire 6th through 8th framework. So that is going to be aspiration, self-advocacy, and planning. And then it is broken up into 2 categories. A student should be exposed to and a student should be supported to. A student should be exposed to is concepts that a student should understand. And then a student should be supported to is action items or experiences that the student would have. The nice thing about the framework is that if a student is being supported to do something, so action items or experiences that they should be having, that the outcome of those activities is going to be for them to understand those concepts. Now, with the middle school framework, I will say in regards to our PaCE support, we do have a couple of supports available for middle schools, but as far as engagement, we are starting to really touch base and work with a lot more middle schools. Historically, we do a lot of work with high schools. We have the connections with high schools. We have been doing a lot of work in regards to PASTA, which takes place in high school. So with the middle school, we're still working towards partnerships and building that communication and trust with middle schools as well, so that we can know what is needed. With the middle school as well, one thing I do like to mention, or as a feedback that we have gotten, if you understand the needs of the middle schools, what are some of the requirements that they are looking to meet? A lot of them, a lot of the social emotional learning, SEL components, if you're working towards that, it will be covered on here as well. Now, looking at the high school framework, this is what a lot of the individuals are used to seeing or are more familiar with. It is going to be 9th through 12th grade. It is broken up the same way as the middle school framework, except we do have different categories. So it is broken up by the end of 9th grade through 12th grade. The benchmarks, all of the bullet points are going to be broken up by students should be supported to, again, action items or experiences. A student should know, understand key concepts. If you're doing action items, they should be able to understand those key concepts. That is the goal. And then a student should have, these are going to be the completion of time-sensitive tasks. So we have in 12th grade, complete a financial aid application by a certain deadline, complete 3 admissions applications by a certain deadline. Most of these time-sensitive tasks are also already graduation requirements for the students. So it's just really you don't have to do anything additional for this. This is just what supports do I have available for these students for them to be able to accomplish this. And then we have the 3 different categories: career exploration and development, financial aid and literacy, post-secondary education, exploration, preparation, and selection. That's going to be the categories that you want the student to be prepared in order to be able to make the most informed decision for life after high school. All right, now that foundationally we have set the bar as to what knowledge we all have, I'm going to get into what to expect. With what to expect, I gave the legislative update, right? So what the requirement is that you all adopt, begin implementation, and post the framework in a prominent place in your website. With what to expect, this is more around what we are seeing where districts are. The first thing is you want to set your goals within PaCE. You want to identify your goals within PaCE. Break it as far as are you going to be adopting or having to customize your own framework? Are you having to adopt the Illinois PaCE framework as is? Is your goal for the school year, if you are a feeder unit, if you're in a middle school connecting with your high school, that's going to be your goal so that you can understand what they're doing with PaCE at the high school level? Or is it that vice versa, the high school talking to their feeder middle schools so to understand what's going on at the middle schools, to know when they get the students in high school, that they'll be able to just build upon what's been happening at all of the middle schools, right? Um, so identify your goal within PACE. Break down the process into the smallest bits and pieces that you can. You want to set a reasonable pace. This is something that you should really think about it as far as what to expect. I know that a lot of the schools we have been meeting with, it's the pace piece, it's not there. They are sort of going into a panic to meet that July 1st, 2025 deadline. So setting a reasonable pace as to like what is that you're going to be accomplishing at least for the year, looking as into what is the requirement, right? The requirement is that you adopt the framework and you post it. So if that is what you want to accomplish by the end of July 1st, 2025, great. You want to make sure that it's a reasonable, doable pace. The second piece that you can look into is, okay, how many benchmarks are we going to look into introducing every year? What is going to be the communication strategies between middle school, high schools, and even community partners or community colleges, whatever resources you have available. You want to, with setting that reasonable pace, creating a timeline is going to be able to complement that really nicely, so that you're able to keep the work going. And then whatever work you do already have in place, that it becomes ongoing work, that you revisit and reevaluate that work. With goals, again, identify your goals as the first thing you want to do. Are you going to adopt or customize? A lot of schools, if you look on our website, we do have the repository of all of the customized frameworks that have been reported to us or sent to us. I think that the misconception is that you have to adopt a framework. The Illinois PACE framework as is looks super overwhelming to individuals. They think that by adopting the Illinois PACE framework that you have to meet the benchmarks in a certain way. So try to think about the Illinois PACE framework in the most flexible way, because if we have a benchmark on there, you are able to interpret it up to your resources, right? So we have complete a career cluster survey. If you already have a platform that does that for the student, it doesn't mean that you have to come up with a whole new activity, right? If you work with CIS 360 that has some of those resources, if you have any platform like Schooling, Cello that already does that for your students, it doesn't mean that you have to come up with a whole new activity for your students. It means you already have a resource and it meets that benchmark, or it helps support that benchmark. So that is one thing to keep in mind as you are thinking of adopting versus customizing. Keep in mind that customizing your own framework will take that additional step of having to work with a team to customize that framework to ensure that it is what your student needs. Not to say that you should stay away from customizing. A lot of schools chose to customize and they have a really great framework. They are able to make it more focused on the resources available to their students within that community. But if you're looking for towards July 1st, 2025, you are able to adopt the Illinois PACE framework as is. And then the next step should be looking into the resources you have available, activities you already have within the school. With the goals, if you have already adopted or a framework or customize your framework, the next step should be identifying what benchmarks you want to implement, what benchmarks you want to create programming for, if you want to have after school activities or you want it to be part of the curriculum, part of the everyday. And then maybe one of your goals can also be finding new resources for career activities. You want to clearly state your goal and share your goal, making sure that everyone who is part of the world of PACE is clear on those goals and they're working towards those goals. We do suggest that you set smaller goals that can break large complex goals into more achievable goals. So we do have a couple of worksheets on our website to help with implementation. It is more of just documenting and being able to help with the documentation being able to guide your goals. And then one that is really important, and I think a lot of our partners are in that space as well, is that it's identifying what success means for you. I think that as of right now, the measurement of success is meeting the deadline July 1st, 2025. And like I mentioned, you just have to post that framework. But if you're able to take your time and really identify what success is going to mean for you, how many students you want to at least meet the benchmarks, what's going to be your goal for that. Really early on, identify that metric of success for your goals so that you can know what you're working towards. If you can break down the process, we have had a ton of schools who maybe they send 5 individuals from that same school and they're not all at the same level of awareness of what is PaCE, what is the requirement with PaCE, what is their role within PaCE. So maybe some of the things that you can start doing depending on where you are is one, view a PaCE overview, get everyone on the same page. Two, have the team agree on which framework to use, customized or not. I know a lot of schools, maybe if they don't have that control over it, if it's admin staff who's making those decisions, if it's a district who's making the decisions, that might not be a step that they have to look into. You might want to also start with the 3-step implementation process. This is going to be a continuous process where you document what is already taking place. So that take inventory. You identify gaps, what's missing, and then you work on action planning. You do want to identify resources available as well, breaking down the process into what resources are also needed, and then identify individuals who will be key stakeholders for each goal. Now, with implementing, this is going to be once you set your goals, once you have broken it up into smaller steps, this is the implementation of the benchmark. So everything else is sort of like pre-work. It's still part of implementing, but it's going to be necessary in order for you to even get started with the implementation and execution of benchmarks. You want to make sure that you develop your team. And when we are talking about developing your team, we're going to talk about everyone within the school. So if you can have students being involved, definitely teachers being involved, curriculum, any curriculum staff be involved, that is going to be a really strong team. So you want to be able to develop your team so that you can get started with so you can get a better look as to everything that's going on and everything that is needed within your school. You want to gather information on current activities. And again, it does not need to be completed in a set amount of time. The biggest panic calls we get is individuals thinking that they have to implement, track, document everything by July 1st, 2025. Think about this, you're not starting from zero. You want to, as part of looking or taking inventory, you want to think about current activities that you already offer within each domain, within each category of the framework. Are these activities taking place each semester? Are there yearly activities? Are you incorporating them inside or outside the classroom? I will say we are having a lot more conversations about incorporating these as part of the classroom. Instead of having those be outside of the classroom, are they during or after school? Who's leading those activities, right? A lot of the time it's after school. You are going to need additional funding if you need any school staff, and they're going to have to be working over their hours. So think about who is going to be leading those activities, who typically attends those activities. With one of the most popular ones, a financial application workshop, right? Who is available to attend those activities? What students are attending those activities? If their parents are attending those activities with them, or are students coming in by themselves? What are additional supports they might need? And then how will you drive attendance up? this is going to be one of the things that even when you are looking into, I already have activities built for this benchmark. I have a great turnout. Okay, the goal of documenting it will possibly be for you to be able to drive attendance to it. So think about those items so that you're not starting from zero. With the three-step implementation, this is what ISAC uses. So we have the taking an inventory worksheets that is available on our website for anyone to use. This is where you'll identify areas of strengths and need. So literally we have the ones that are aligned or that are aligned with the Illinois PaCE framework as is. You're looking into every benchmark within the Illinois PaCE framework as is middle school through high school. And you are looking to see how well you are implementing it. If you are, we do have a degree of completion chart as part of every worksheet. So you are looking into if you already have an activity that will help meet the benchmark. Let's say creating a resume. A lot of individuals who talk about, yeah, we have something for our students to create a resume as part of the curriculum, as part of home economics or something of that sort. If they are looking into taking an inventory, they will look to see the entire student body, how many students are actually completing that. And then you will be ranking those. So that is taking an inventory. The second thing is going to be prioritizing gaps. Again, we do have a worksheet for that available for the Illinois PaCE framework. And this is where you're brainstorming potential activities that you want to improve. So looking at taking an inventory, if you had some benchmarks where you scored really low, like 30% of your student body is completing that by the time they graduate, this is where you want to brainstorm potential activities to ensure, let's say that 45% of your student body is completing those benchmarks by the time they graduate, or 50% of your student body is completing those benchmarks by the time they graduate. So this is where you're brainstorming potential activities. I also like to think about prioritizing gaps as where you are documenting. If you are even doing something that you are meeting at 100%, 100% of your students are doing this by the time they graduate, completing 3 admissions applications, right? In prioritizing gaps, you are able to document what activities are already taking place in order that has been accomplishing that 100%. So prioritizing gaps is one of my favorite steps because you are documenting and also brainstorming. And then action planning, that goes deeper into documenting. This is really putting your plan into motion. This is you being able to set this is you being able to document the who, what, where, right? If in prioritizing gaps, we have that we have admissions application workshop, right? In action planning, we have who has volunteered for this, how have we gotten funding if it's outside of school hours, how have we gotten funding for staff. You have the location of that workshop, what is needed for that workshop, materials, who are partners, do you have anyone from the colleges or universities who usually partner with you? That way, if there's staff turnaround for the next year, they're able to look at this and be able to contact the same individuals who will already be participating in this. All right, with partnership, you are a really valuable resource, no matter where you are in the process. We, as far as our support and our trainings, we do use a lot of what we're hearing out in the field. So you are the resource, right? The questions that you're asking, the updates you're giving us as to where you are, the feedback as to what you're finding hard, that is the resource that we are using in order to drive our processes and our resources that we make available to you all. So no matter where you are in the process, just know that there is someone who can learn as much from you, whether it be deciding which framework to adopt, how to plan for implementation, If you have already decided which framework to adopt and you are at the stage with planning for implementation, there is someone out there who might be at the same step and that we are able to connect you with. So you are that valuable resource. Action planning with specific benchmarks, gathering data, reevaluating data. No matter where you are in this process, you are going to be a valuable resource. And just like how you are a valuable resource, you're going to end up meeting a lot of individuals who are a valuable resource to you. So we have collaboration in education. One of the things with the expansion of the framework is that there is a need for collaboration to happen from the middle schools to the high schools. We are a huge state. We have a ton of school districts, and they all look different depending on where they are. So that middle school collaboration with the high school is going to be really important once both have adopted a framework. And even when we are talking about school districts that might be unit school district, the collaboration piece has been there. Communication is great. The middle school works super nicely with the high school and vice versa. There is still a lot of work to be done in order for you all to be able to adopt and easily transition those students from middle school into high school using the PaCE framework. So keep in mind that there is going to be a lot of collaboration happening. It already is happening. It's just building upon those relationships. The first thing I have on here is middle school to high school. With this, this collaboration is going to ensure that the work is spread out. Every time middle schools are involved in implementation conversations even about the high school framework, a lot of the career pieces, that career exploration, surveys, get taken care of at the middle school. So being able to communicate that, being able to know, hey, this is what I'm doing, and hey, here's that data, here's the interest from that student, is going to really go a long way. We also have high school to high school when applicable. If you are one of those districts that have the east, west, north, and south, collaborating, being able to open up your school for other students within that same school district to be able to attend events at your school is going to be big. And even if it's not within the same district, like, for example, I know Vienna recently talked about their career fair, how big it became because everybody was having their own career fairs, and it was able to be even bigger and better for the students by opening it up to certain high schools and having them be able to attend. So that collaboration between high school to high school is going to be really important as well. I have on here middle school, high school, and community college. One thing that we have been loving and learning about also has been the work that the community colleges are doing to support high schools and also middle schools in their work with PaCE. They have their resources are being geared towards helping schools meet the PaCE framework or just support that PaCE framework. So building that partnership with the community college from middle school, high school to community college is going to be important, right? At the community college level, essentially, the goal is for them to end up with the students. If they are collaborating and they know what happens at the middle school level, what happens at the high school level, then that is just a benefit to them when the student gets to their community college. And this doesn't just have to be a community college. This will be the same. It will be true for local universities, trade schools, any workforce unions, anything around that. For the students, that's going to be a really great partnership. And then one thing that I have been mentioning, and surprisingly, not a lot of individuals are aware of these resources, depending if you're admin or if you're a school counselor or other staff. But regional offices of education and then employment for education's EFE, those are going to be a great resource for you all as well. They do have funding available depending on the EFE, but they are looking towards getting everyone together and seeing where they can support you all in your career pieces of the framework. So they are going to be a great resource. I mentioned the partnership with community college, so let me get into ISAC. ISAC, we have been leading the work with PaCE since the beginning of its creation since 2017. I myself have been here since 2019 in regards to working with PaCE. And all of our resources are truly geared towards supporting the framework. The first thing we have is that we have resources to meet the needs of the students from the framework at every level. I have on here the career, financial, and post-secondary, which are the high school ones. Because again, like I mentioned, historically, we have been working mostly with high schools. So a lot of the resources that we already had in place help support all three domains of the high school PACE framework. Every year we do host a College Changes Everything campaign and also the conference, which does support both the career post-secondary domains. We also provide monthly professional development webinars on topics such as post-secondary options, supporting students through summer and verification mail, federal loan repayment options. So anything that you might need in order to help support your students. And not only at the professional level do we have supports available, but also just literally to help facilitate the framework. So we have a couple of initiatives to support the partners across the state. So we have First Generation Scholars Network. We have the ISAC Corps. If you partner up with our ISAC Corps members, if you're not familiar with them, please visit our student portal. They pretty much have offerings to help support students in every domain, whether it be a financial aid workshop, a financial aid offer workshop, financial aid admissions applications workshop, if it's a presentation, we have Claim Your Future. So the ISAC Corps members, literally, you don't need a facilitator. You literally need someone who has the classroom, be able to provide the space for the ISAC Corps member and spread out the word about the event. And the ISAC Corps member will be the facilitator for that activity. So they are going to be a great partner. And then we also have the Illinois College Access Network, Illinois CAN, which is a network that pretty much has or brings all professionals within the post-secondary world, or who are helping students transition into just life after high school with any resources that they might need, including learning more about the Pell Grant, financial aid, resources, additional supports for PACE. This is a great learning community, and it is free for you all. We also do partner with local, state, and national organizations to share resources and to also gather resources for you all. So Illinois Association of College and Admissions Counseling, Illinois School Counselors Association, Illinois Education and Career Success Network, the National College Attainment Network. We try to be as active as we can so that we are aware and bringing those resources and also advocating for your needs, right? If there's not always going to be a resource available, but if we're in communication with you, we are able to take that message as to what are some of the things they should be looking to build upon. All right, it is come to the end of the webinar. We do have our new texting service. So this is going to be ISAC Connection. This is just for professionals. I know we've gotten a few students who have reached out onto our texting. Just be sure that if your student needs additional help, we do have a text number specifically for students that's going to be found on our student portal. This is specifically for professionals. So school counselors, community-based organizations, anyone working with students who might have a question so that they can get an answer to their question as soon as possible. You can get started by texting your name to 847-250-2384. Once you do that, you're able to ask your question, and then one of our training and development specialist team will reach out as soon as possible. We also have the First Generation Scholars Network. This is going to be available for any of your students to be able to join. This is a free network that they can join where they'll connect with the first generation Scholar Network mentor, where they'll be able to find a program on campus if there is one specifically for first gen. If there are any check-in events, they'll be able to participate at no cost. All of the services are going to be free along with any other resource that we might have available. So that is on the student portal as well. They're able to join. And as of right now, the time commitment, it's not a time commitment on them, is pretty much resources being provided to them. We also have our PaCE curriculum training coming up. The registration has not opened yet, but this is going to be an overview that walks attendees through the Illinois PaCE curriculum for 6th through 8th grade. The Illinois PaCE curriculum is the resource that we have as of right now for middle schools, in order to be able to help them with implementation of their benchmarks. Once registration does open, we do send it out through our e-messaging system. So I do have on here to sign up for our e-messaging to be able to register when registration opens. If you haven't signed up for our e-messaging yet, if you go into isec.org, scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, our e-messaging sign up will be there, so that you can learn about any upcoming offerings we may have. And then lastly, I know most of you also have joined us for CE and PD hours, so please provide your feedback for today's session by completing an evaluation. This has to be completed by Thursday, March 6th, so in 2 days. If you are requesting PD hours, you have to also include your educator identification number, your EIN. Otherwise, we won't be able to identify you, so make sure that you have that information. If you are not sure what PD hours are, it might not, or you don't have an EIN, then it might be that you don't need PD hours, but we still ask that you complete the evaluation to give us feedback. So the link is on the chat. I know Manny just posted it on the chat, but we also have the QR code here on the screen. So I'll leave this up, briefly going to just thank you. Our contact information is going to be isec.outreachtraining@illinois.gov or isec.pace@illinois.gov. But thank you all for joining us. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.